I think we can start now. So if you have any questions that you would like to know as to why you should join this program or what is so special about this program, please ask. How do I how do I see this? Good morning, sir. Why can't I see it? Well, the criterion, one of the questions that I see is what's the criterion for the selection process? Well, there are a few criteria that we are going to look at. Obviously, the most important thing is that you must be showing enough commitment to a program in public policy. So we're going to look at what is it that you want to do with your career to be able to decide whether how you're going to benefit from this program. But other than that, we want you to be somebody who has gone through at least a bachelor's program and who is interested in creating a career in public policy. So really the real criteria is your interest and your ability to have an open mind, a questioning mind. That's what we are going to look at. So as you know, the ISPP is an initiative that some of us are taking because we do believe that India is in a transformational stage and we need a lot of people to be able to figure out exactly what we need to do to enable the society to transform itself into a modern, vibrant, young society. Clearly, we have a focus on young because much of India is very young. You're the guys who are going to run with this country for the next 50, 60 years. And hence, it is important that we not only train you for that, but also create a thought process that addresses your concerns and your aspirations. So that's the reason why some of us who have experience in public policy at both ends, those who are practitioners as well as those who have been designing public policy, to create a training program so that you guys can handle the problems as they come along in your experiences in adult life. Our focus, therefore, is on creating a group of people who will exchange their ideas and views in a very structured fashion. And that structuring is what we are going to do through the training program so that you have a better understanding of issues and can ask the right sort of questions, which you will have to solve yourselves. Because remember, public policy is extremely contextual. It depends on how you formulate the problem. It depends on where you're trying to solve the problem. By where, I don't only mean geographical space, but also the type of society, the type of people you're going to work with, etc. So it is that training, that awareness, that ability to handle these challenges that we are going to train you for through this program. But I don't see many questions. What scope do you see for the students coming from the technical background in public policy in the near future? Well, there are two parts to this question. The first part is the technical background that is needed. Well, the only technical background that is needed is the ability to analyze and that is to say, be analytical, ask questions, formulate questions, and the ability to have a structured thought process towards answering that question. That's the technical background we are looking for. And therefore, engineers, mathematicians, sociologists, political scientists, economists, everybody can participate in this process. You just have to have the commitment to have a career in public policy. As for the type of careers that one can look at, remember that today, both at the state and at the central government level, there is a lot of activity in terms of regulation, in terms of project planning, working with the private sector, working independently as government. All of these things are, areas where a career in public policy or a training in public policy becomes extremely useful. So you are looking at careers in the private sector when corporates have to deal with public affairs. You're looking for government, regulatory agencies, state level project implementation. So all of this is, or all of these types of careers are there open to you. And in addition to that, I must also say that most NGOs and non-governmental organizations work with the public, right? These are not profit-motivated organizations. Their main aim is to ensure that a large number of people are affected positively by what they're trying to do. And hence, there also public policy plays a big role, even though it is not being government initiated. So in that sense, even NGOs would be useful career points for you guys. What is the maximum work experience to join this program? Well, there is no maximum and minimum work experience, but certainly those who have done some work on the field would have better understanding of the type of problems they face or the type of trainings they need to be able to have a good career in public policy. If you have experience, it will always be helpful. You will be that much more matured in being able to appreciate what we are trying to say. But there is no maximum or minimum work experience necessary. So if you have any more questions, please ask. Why is the course fee high? Can it be reduced even for general candidates? Well, you see, the thing is that you must understand that the course fee is not high. We are not a profit-making organization. We are trying to get the best people to be part of the trainers, and these people come at a cost. You will notice that we have very little overheads because we are not building campuses, buying land, building houses, building buildings, and all of that. We want to be essentially talent heavy and asset light organization. So we're getting the best people to participate in the training program. And that's the cost that we're asking for. But please remember that we also have a generous scholarship program. So people who we believe would be very useful with a training, useful to society if they get this training, then they and but do not have the funding or the money to be able to pay for the course, will definitely be supported by us through various scholarship programs. You have full scholarships, partial scholarships, all of that we are going to offer to you. But we also believe that unless you have some skin in the game, unless you yourself spend some resources, you're not going to have that commitment to perform well. But you should not worry about the funding, especially if you're suited for a career in public policy. Somebody has asked if study of regulatory affairs is covered in the program. Of course it is. And that is where we expect the largest demand for people in public policy. Because as I said, it's not only at the central government level, but even at the state government level, there are all these regulatory agencies being opened up, competition authority, TRI, insurance. In all these markets, there has to be a regulator. And these regulators have to be technically equipped to run public policy. They cannot just be administrators, because what is to be administered also has to be decided. And it is in this context that the demand for regulators or regulatory people with regulatory expertise is very, very important. So yes, the short question, will regulatory affairs be covered in the program? The answer is yes, you will. Somebody has asked in the kind of scope this course would have for someone looking to pursue a PhD in economics. Now, I myself am an economist, and as you can see, I'm very much associated with this public policy program. In fact, almost all of economics ultimately is linked to public policy because remember, as an economist, you try to maximize social welfare, right? And the entire approach to public policy is to ensure that the greater good is being served. So, if you are doing an economics PhD, you will be studying public policy. Now, whether you do it during your PhD or before your PhD, it will be useful in either case. So, therefore, I would say that you have a very good opportunity to pursue higher studies in economics after you have completed the public policy program. In fact, it will only help your application to a PhD program. One of the questions asked, is it recognized by any university? No, it is not as yet recognized by any university. We are starting up the program. We are going to give you a diploma or a certificate. But please remember that most of the people who are participating in this training program are highly acclaimed academicians, and therefore their recommendations matter in terms of your applications to other places. But we are as yet not recognized by any university. How we will be able to develop further career in public policy after doing 1 year course, and will it be like the master program? The master's program in India is a 2 year program, right? And only 2 year master's programs are certified and recognized by universities in India. Ours is a 1 year program, but it is a postgraduate training because you have to, the minimum qualification we need, educational qualification we need is a bachelor's. So it is a postgraduate program. But it is not a master's program in terms of the degree that you get. Are there any specializations? Now, obviously, since it is a postgraduate program, it will have some specializations, but our specializations are going to be more topical, right? So, for example, we have identified 5 or 6 major areas where public policy specialists will be demanded. These are health, education, environment, technology, urbanization, right? So these would be, I would say we'll go beyond specializations because these will not be specific courses that are given to you within these verticals, but also round the year projects and round the year questions that you'll be answering or addressing throughout the 1 year training on these very specific topics. So that at the end of the day, when you get our certificate or our diploma and graduate from our program, you will have known all the major issues, all the major approaches to those very specific topics in which we are going to have huge demand for people in India. Well, one of the questions is that will the PhD in economics with a part of the focus on macroeconomics, international monetary policy, currency and exchange rate market, and other macroeconomic fundamentals be part of this? Well, we are not teaching you economics, right? So we will certainly not cover everything here. But you have also asked the question as to whether behavioral economics will be covered. Now, a large part of public policy is economics, and a large part of public policy is how people respond to various interventions outside of the marketplace while they're operating in the market. So, clearly, behavioral economics would be a huge part of what we're going to do. However, the course will not be on behavioral economics, but whatever we consider in behavioral economics will form the basis of public policy here. Most importantly, since people are strategic, right, and since they respond to various interventions of public policy, so we will definitely ground you very well in applied game theory so that you're able to understand why and how people respond to various things that we do, even though we may not be able to understand why they're not listening to us, why they're not responding in the way we want them to respond. So that understanding would be crucial, and that's a huge part of behavioral economics. How can working professionals participate in this program? This is a 1 year program and it's going to be an intensive program. So the way we have designed it, it's not possible for you to work and attend this program. You can take time off from work for a year and attend the program, but you cannot do this simultaneously, at least not now, not in our first year. Maybe over time we'll develop such a program, but it's not in our horizon right now, because we do believe that one of the important things about public policy within this group who will be studying together would be the cross fertilization of ideas that take place because people come from, with different experiences. So being with your peer group most of the time, most of your conscious time when you're not sleeping, right, is very, very important in the training process. And therefore, this will be an intensive course for a year, and you cannot do it simultaneously with working. Do you offer full scholarships? As I said a little while before, yes, we do. But our scholarship program is very much on a need basis, right? So if we believe that you will have a very good career in public policy but are unable to pay, we will make it easier for you to attend the class through scholarships. Yes, we have full scholarships, but we also have partial scholarships. As I said, it will depend on how much or on the basis of your need, right, that you have. And you also have to be good. So it's both merit, you have to be good enough to join the program, as well as needs. One of the questions asked is what are the prospects of going abroad on a public policy program after this 1 year program with ISPP? Let me tell this upfront. It would be extremely useful. If you want to enter a public policy program abroad, then going through this 1 year course would be very, very relevant and important for you. Why? Because most of the people who will be involved in teaching you are well-known academicians who regularly send students abroad, who recommend students abroad, and their students do get into the best universities abroad. For example, last year I recommended somebody who is now at the Harris School of Public Policy in the University of Chicago. The year before that, I recommended someone who went into the Applied Economics program at Cornell, which is one of the best programs in applied economics, which is essentially public policy or economic policy. So yes, the answer to your question is yes. If you convince the teachers who will be teaching you that you are good and committed and dedicated to public policy, your chances of being able to go abroad on a public policy program is very, very high. the one question asked is, how does this course make us different? That is, where do we stand vis-a-vis the students coming from development study programs or for, say, the development professionals? It's hugely different in the sense that even though the objective is the same, right, the analytical training that you're going to get will be much stronger. I keep focusing or I keep emphasizing the term analytical because remember that when you are working in development, the type of things that attract you or the type of things that enthuse you could be something that you feel with your heart, right? You look at poverty, you look at people who are vulnerable, and you start wanting to do something for them. Well, that's a very good thing to start with, right? That you use your heart to identify problems. However, when it comes to solving them, you have to use your mind. Right? You cannot use your heart to solve problems. You can use your heart to identify problems, to pick up problems that you want to work on. But when you're trying to solve them, you have to use your mind. And it's that training that we're going to give you in public policy. So just wanting to work in development, you can actually end up harming the people you're trying to work for if you haven't thought out the solution very well. And that is the training that we're going to give you in public policy. How to use your mind to solve problems that you want to solve. So let me just say that you'll be better development professionals if you go through this course. How many times in a week these classes will be held, or they will be held every day of the week? There is no free time. There is a lot of free time to think, a lot of free time to do projects, a lot of free time to interact with your peer groups and with your mentors and with your tutors. But it will happen every day of the week. So, why is our program different from other public policy programs? What are some of the key unique features of the program? Now, this program is not being set up within an existing academic institution where academics get together and decide on a program, draw up a syllabus, and start training students. For us, the way we are designing our program, the way we are building it up, the way we came together, has people from all walks of life. So we have academicians, of course, we have industrialists, we have businesses, we have policymakers who have been involved in policy making, successes, failures, have experienced them all, right? All of them have come together to design the syllabus. So, in a sense, the syllabus that we are going to have or the material that we're going to put to you would be extremely well designed and very, very handpicked, specifically geared towards the problems that our society or our economy faces in its transformational phase, right? So, in that sense, you will get the best people who could train you in this. The other feature, one other unique feature that we have, which will be something that will go throughout the program, is that it will be extremely problem solving approach, right? So it will be problem oriented and how to get the solutions there. We will not necessarily give you the solutions, but we will train you how to get to solutions. Why? Because every single problem that you will face will be very idiosyncratic, will be very specific and special to the circumstance in which you are facing that problem. And therefore, you have to be able not only to have solutions ready made for you, but you will also have to be trained to be able to figure out how to get to a solution. And in that sense, it is unique. So it is not just a collection of received wisdom packaged in some form and given out to you. It is a learning process. It is a process which we will go through thought experiments. We'll give you puzzles which you will solve. We will show you how the solving of that puzzle that you are working with has implications for solving real life problems, so that you can go out into the real world and start using the analytical training that you have obtained to be able to address problems. So in that sense, it's very different. The approach is very different. We are not trying to give you received wisdom. We are trying to train you analytically. because received wisdom you can read up yourselves. Will it help you in getting a government job? Of course it will help. As I was saying a little while earlier, that almost all the specialized government regulatory agencies require expert people, and they don't have it at the moment. People are going into these regulatory agencies with some knowledge in economics and engineering and management, and then trying to learn on the job. And that is what we are trying to avoid. You all have already learned before you enter this. I and many of us have been advisors to various regulatory agencies, have trained people in regulatory agencies, and we know that there is a huge requirement of expert people in these regulatory agencies. And if you consider that as a government job, yes, indeed, you'll have a government job after doing well in our program. Well, it's not necessarily that we will have an interview. For people, this is somebody who is asking for whether we have started the admission process for the January cycle and whether the interviews have started for the January cycle. Well, no, the interviews haven't started. The January cycle, remember, closes on the 15th of January. Right? It closes on the 15th of January. We may or may not have interviews depending on your qualifications, your admission material, and whether or not you need financial assistance. So all of that will determine whether we have a face-to-face meeting with you or not. So, but you should not worry about having interviews because we may not have interviews for everybody. Well, whether somebody has asked whether 1 year is enough time to give enough expertise. Please remember, public policy is a finishing career, is a finishing training program, right? Whether you want to, whether you have been trained as an engineer, whether you have been trained as an economist, whether you have been trained as a doctor, public policy is something that you do in your area of specialization. Right? So, as an economist, you do not make public policy in the space program. Right? However, if you are part of the space program, right, then you have to be able to know something about public policy. So, in that sense, 1 year is more than enough time to be able to build on the expertise that you already have through your technical background and know how, when it comes to your area where public policy is necessary, how you're going to approach that problem. Okay. So in that sense, 1 year is more than enough time. And that's the reason why we have specializations in the way that I said a little while before. So if you're a doctor and you're interested in public health, right, then 1 year is more than enough for you to be able to do public health as a doctor. We are not going to train you as a medical student, right? So you're coming after your training as a medical student because you want to do public health. So what are the issues in public health? How does it affect people? How you want to ensure that doctors do a good job, hospital management does a good job, actually looks after the patient's interest in a way that improves the health of the society. So that's what we are going to teach you. And that for that 1 year is more than enough. Somebody has asked, what after completing the course? Well, after completing the course, there are various options that you will have. You will have a certificate, you'll have a diploma with which you can go out and say that you know more about public policy than you knew before, right? That you are you have some expertise in the very specific public policy area that you want to work in. Just as I said, if you're a doctor interested in public health, you have an expertise in that. If you are, an engineer or a transport engineer who wants to work in urbanization, then you have the expertise in public policy, because remember, urbanization is not you know, devoid of it. Urbanization has to involve a lot of public policy, how you organize public spaces, how you organize public transportation, how you organize congestion, how do you ensure that the city is not environmentally polluted. In all of this, right, you will need public policy. So we are going to train you in that, and that would be the career you'll be looking for. So after this training program, wherever you're interfacing with the public, you will have expertise in being able to do that better. And mind you, since we are developing this program, by talking to the government, by talking to businesses, by talking to NGOs, civil society organizations, etc., right, our program will be designed to be able to create people for them, right? So they are demanding these sorts of training. We are going through a very intensive skill mapping requirements by these organizations who hire people like you, right? So in that sense, there will be a lot of career options opening up after our training program. The course is not recognized by the government. Please remember that the government goes through minimum qualifications, right? And those minimum qualifications have to be recognized by the government. So certain jobs are not open to you unless you've finished an undergraduate program, right? And those undergraduate programs have to be from recognized universities. Some jobs are not open to you because you haven't done a master's, because only recognized master's programs are accepted by the government. But this is over and above that. Now that the government will never say, oh, you have this expertise, but we're not going to look at it because it's not from a recognized university. So please understand, what you are training in is not because the government eligibility criterion requires that. It's because you are adding to an expertise that you already have. And that the government will definitely appreciate. Of course, we are also talking to the government. We're also training you such that the government starts believing, or whoever is going to employ you, that individual starts believing that yes, this training program will have some positive impact on how these people are going to carry out their activities. Well, this is a very interesting question, something that we have ourselves deliberated on a lot. The question is, I'm a mid-career professional. How will the class cohort be? Now, we are looking for a little bit, excuse me, let me turn off my phone. We have, we are asking for work experience. So some people will come in with work experience. Could be 2 years, could be 3 years, could be in their midlife, right? So, so it is, in fact, let me tell you something, it would be a very good thing, because beyond a certain age, and I can tell you that, beyond a certain age, we start getting channelized into our way of thinking, right? Because we're used to a way of thinking. People get comfortable in the way they have thought before, they continue on that line. And therefore, some external shocks from younger people who think differently can change the way we also think. And that's a huge plus point in public policy, to be able to be open to new ideas, to try out new things, to experimentation, etc. So actually, we are going to plan a class which is very diverse, not just in what they have learned, not just in what they have been doing so far, but also how long they have been doing it. Right? So if I put a young engineer with somebody who's been in the profession for a few years, and they start talking to each other. Remember, the base, their knowledge base is more or less the same, but their experience base is extremely different. And that is the sort of dialogue that we want to take place among you within the peer group on a continual basis, because that is how you open up your mind to experimentation. And as I keep saying, public policy, a lot of it is experimentation. It is not received wisdom, but it is learning on the job, trying out various things, tweaking the implementation plan of an objective. All of that is part of public policy. And so we want diverse groups interacting with each other. Well, can you extend it to 2 years degree for those who take this 1 year program after? Well, when we do have a 2 year program, there will be a 2 year program. The reason for doing a 1 year program is because we do believe that there is a huge demand for public policy specialists. And the public policy specialists we're looking for is not public policy in the abstract, but public policy in the specific areas that India needs transformational public policy, like as I said before, health, education, environment, urbanization, technology, right, etc. So we are trying to prime them up to be able to do public policy in these areas. Now, if you want a career in public policy in general or in the abstract, then that will be more of a 2 year program. And that we will take up when it happens. Will the 1 year people be allowed to extend it to a 2 year program? We haven't thought about it as yet, but we will definitely think about it. Because remember, one of the things that we are trying to do here is to keep training people, allowing people to upgrade their knowledge, right? You don't have to spend 4 years to get a program. You can take 1 year, do for 1 year, learn something, go out, practice, come back, upgrade your knowledge, go out, practice, come back, upgrade your knowledge even more. So over a 10-year period, you can do the 4 year program. We are not there yet, but we are thinking along those terms. But to give you a short answer to your question right now, no, we don't have that plan as yet. We're still in the design stage, so we have no plan as yet. One of the questions asked is, what are the health-related policies that will be taught? Okay. First, let me clarify something. I keep telling you that we are not going to give you only received wisdom. Our received wisdom, there is no received wisdom, there is received experience. We are going to analyze those experiences. We are going to figure out where we went right, where we went wrong, right? Or could we have done it better? So that training we are going to give you. So we'll obviously go through our legacy of health policies in India, right? Where has it succeeded, where it hasn't succeeded, why, etc., 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 right? What are the things that we missed when we were designing these policies? So we are not going to tell you, oh, this is a great policy, this is how it is done. Right? We're not going to do that. We are going to say, this is a great policy. But why was it a great policy? Let us figure that out. Where could we have gone wrong if we hadn't done it this way? Right? It is that understanding of what works that was what we are going to teach you. So again, if you ask me what are the health-related policies that will be taught, everything. Why? Because our target is to be able to do health policy in such a way that various health indicators are achieved. And that essentially means that the healthcare services in India, right, satisfy the aspirations of the people who are demanding that healthcare. Right? So that's what we are going to talk about in all our public policy approaches. Selection, I am unable to understand this question. So if you can ask again, the question asked is selection will be question answer based or of presentation based. Well, if you're talking about the selection into the program, right, then you're applying and we're going to look at your application material and decide. We are not necessarily going to interview you. If we do interview, that is because we believe that we need to have a face-to-face talk with you. And during that time, whether you will give a presentation or whether you'll be asked some specific questions, the answer is it will be both, right? Because we also want to know why you want to get into this program. So we have not decided on these things as yet. Right? That will only be if we cannot decide on your application material, but there is a nagging doubt that you actually may be suitable for this program. Where will the courses be held? Are there any specific government departments or NGOs tied up with the institute? This is a training program, right? So obviously the people who will be training are professional trainers, right? So they'll be mostly academics, and there'll be people who are used to teaching or who are good at teaching. However, a large part of the teaching program, a large part of the training program, I should say, would involve experiential learning. That is to say, you will be in constant touch with people who are practitioners, both in the government, in NGOs, in businesses, who face various hurdles when dealing with people. Right? And you will all be made aware of those problems. You will also be made aware of how they have addressed very specific issues. And mind you, much of public policy also involves not just the government and the corporates, but also the interface between publics and between public or between government and corporates, right? So how they interact with each other, because the corporate's objective is a little bit different from the government's objective, but both require the people to be with them. Now, how do they interact? How do they interface? How do they respond to each other's incentives such that public policy is served, right? So for that reason, you will be interacting with a lot of NGOs, a lot of corporate sector people, as well as a lot of government people. Are we tied up at an individual level? Yes, we are tied up with all these people. We are holding meetings with industry people. We are holding meetings with civil society organizations and other NGOs. We are holding meetings with the government to figure out precisely what is it, or what is the type of skill that they believe they are lacking. And we are going to train people to fill those gaps. So yes, we do have a lot of tie-ups with various sorts of people who will be your potential employers. Will we be taught how to access, engage, deal, and work with the policymakers, bureaucrats, parliamentarians, ministers, secretaries, MLAs, etc.? Well, you can't do public policy without interacting with these people. We are well aware of that. So the immediate answer to your question is yes, of course. We will train you. But we are going to train you, not just by making you meet them. In our program, we have specific training skill sets that we have identified, which we want to give to you. And those skill sets, part of those skill sets involve the art of communication, involve the art of writing, involve in art of writing petitions, right? So doing all these things, how to interact with people, how to know what the parliamentarian is really interested in. What is a parliamentarian's language as opposed to the secretary in a department, government department? What is the difference that you need to be able to communicate with them to get their interest? Mind you, these are all very busy people, so they have to be willing to listen to you. So how do you ensure that they listen to you? So all that training will specifically be given, and we are planning on that. How are industry partners contributing in shaping up this program? We've already discussed it, that they're a very integral part of how we are designing the skill sets that are, how we are designing the training in the skill sets that they are lacking. Are you checking graduation knowledge as well in interviews? You guys are clearly extremely nervous about interviewing, so am I. I very well understand why you wouldn't want to walk into a room where there are a group of people you have never met before who ask you questions without telling you what the syllabus was, right? But don't worry about interviews. You shouldn't be so worried about interviews because we are interested in getting people who are committed to the course. Right? Most of us strongly believe that if you have gone through the undergraduate program, right, you must have minimum intelligence. So that is not an issue. The issue is, do you have the commitment? Do you have the dedication to public policy? That's what we're looking for. Therefore, do not worry about your training, about what knowledge you have and all. We presume that you have some knowledge. And if you do not have that knowledge, you're at least able to analyze problems. That's all we're looking for. Because you can always work twice as hard and regain the knowledge that you have missed before. So that's no big deal. Okay. I think now we are running out of time. So in 5 minutes, we will have to be winding up. Now, I may not have answered all your questions. If I haven't answered all your questions, please, send us a note. Please send us a note at contact at ispp@ispp.org.in. So remember that it's contact@ispp.org.in. If you send me your questions, I'll definitely answer them, right? We have about 8 minutes, and in that 8 minutes, before I run out of time, let me remind you that January 15th is the last day for the first cycle of the admission process. So if you haven't completed your forms but have started completing them, please complete them, right? And make sure that you put it in by January 15th. That makes it easier for us to start the interaction with you, and you will also get it out of your way, right? So please remember January 15th is the deadline. Somebody has written that public policy is not a focus of the private sector. What are the opportunities in government? But government remuneration is not that well. Please remember, as I keep saying, that public policy is not the passing of statutes and regulation and making laws only. Public policy is essentially collective action, and group of people can take collective action. So when you say that the corporate sector is not interested in public policy, you're making a very big error, and that is the clarification that we are going to give you as to what is public policy. Public policy is essentially collective action. So coordinating people's behavior in such a way that everybody is better off. And therefore, corporates have a huge interest in getting such people. Plus, remember, through our new corporate law, for very large corporations, right, those who have profits above a certain level, CSR, or corporate social responsibility actions, are mandatory by law. And that is a huge part of public policy. And therefore, there is a huge number of job openings in the corporate sector to enable corporate sector to do CSR activities. So the corporate sector would be very interested in public policy experts. Okay, I hope this discussion that we've had has been of some benefit, and I look forward to keeping the interactions with you people going. Whether you join, whether you not join, remember public policy is a very, very important area of expertise that is opening up, and that is the reason why we are getting into it. So hopefully you will be in some form or the other interested in this, and will get back to us. We will have these webinars. We'll have many more webinars of this type. So even if I couldn't answer all your questions, or you didn't ask any questions because you just wanted to check in and see what was going on, if you feel enthused, if you feel inspired, if you have any questions, please join our future webinars. Be on the lookout. We will announce them just as we did this one, and I hope to see you again sometime later. I before I finish, let me just tell you, my name is Shubhashis Gangopadhyay. I am the Dean of ISPP. I am an economist by training and have been in academics forever. So I look forward to interacting with you. Bye for now.